Welcome to Talking About It, where we're doing a deep dive into the Lord of the Rings books from two very different perspectives. I'm Evelyn, and I've never read the books.
I'm Robert, and I've read the books too many times to count. Come join us on this adventure.
Hey guys, I'm Evelyn,
And I'm Robert.
and we're talking about it. So, this is chapter 4 that we're going into Shortcut to Mushrooms.
Yes, but we had a minor technical glitch with our first recording.
And by minor, we mean that half the audio was just lost, and I have no idea why. I'm just going to blame the cat because that's just what I always do. Um, but yeah, so if we're not as funny or interesting in this particular episode, please be kind and go to this episode afterwards because that one is off the cuff and fly.
Off the cuff and fly.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, like we said, this is chapter 4, The Shortcut to Mushrooms. And I had predicted what I've been predicting for the last two chapters, which is they were finally going to start their journey and they were going to meet Aragorn. No, I didn't predict they were going to meet Aragorn this time. I said they were not going to because I kept being wrong.
Correct.
And they didn't. So I was right. I had no other idea what possibly Shortcut to Mushrooms could have meant. I really had no idea until I read this.
Well, maybe it's about a shortcut that leads them to mushrooms.
Uh, I honestly didn't think it was that simple. Tolkien, what I've learned so far in these last couple chapters is Tolkien is all about the symbolism and all about the journey. So I guess I'm just reading too much into it at this point. Oh well. Um,
Well, so it begins with them basically getting up in the morning after having spent the evening being hosted by the elves.
right, and the elves are gone,
And the elves are gone.
but they left them a nice breakfast.
Right. And also, the book points out that Frodo woke up refreshed after being with the elves.
Yes, it does. And not just Frodo, Sam and Pippin are also very joyful the next morning.
Right. And I also think it's funny how the other three are picking on Frodo like he's the old man.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're the last one up. If you were up when the rest of us were, we'd already be on our way.
It does sound like that. So they're cheerfully eating breakfast. Frodo wants to think, and Pippin's like, why? While you're eating? That's so tiresome. And Pippin is like, starts cheerfully asking about the writer again, where he's like, you think we're gonna see him, but he's in more cheerful mood than scared mood. And to me, that kind of came off just showing his more being naive, I guess.
Well, he's also young.
He's also very young and he doesn't know what's going on and the true scope of the urgency of the entire situation. So, of course, he's not going to think too much about the writer, I guess.
Well, or when he does think about the writer, it's like, I want to see him.
Yeah, that too.
I mean, it's like, telling a kid to come away from the window because of the storm. The kid goes to the window because he wants to watch the storm.
Like me.
Like you.
Yeah, so they're eating breakfast and Frodo is thinking and he is, despite the elves telling him that he needs friends along the way, he's still very unsure about bringing his friends with him. He talks about bringing them into exile and all of the grief and turmoil that's going to go on, and he's really starting to understand the gravity of the situation and he doesn't want to put his friends in such a precarious situation, not even Sam, who's so keen to go along with him.
Well, yeah, and also, so Frodo asked him, so now that you've seen elves, are you still excited about going? Did you like them? And Sam's reply to that was, well, they seem to be above my likes and my dislikes,
Right.
as if he understands it doesn't matter to the elves if he likes them or not.
Exactly. He's seen the elves and he's like, wow, that's awesome. And we get a sense for how other creatures really view elves, where they're very earthial and such.
Yeah, and he also describes them as so old and young, so gay and sad. I mean, because as a mixture.
Yeah.
I mean, they are, as individuals, they are quite old year wise.
Yes.
In years, but they still are energetic, like they're in their youth, but they're also old and wise, which seems to be also thought of as being a little sad.
I guess.
And then, but yet, because they're ready to party, basically, distribute the food and the wine. Also being so gay, as in wanting to have a good time.
Yeah, cheerful and happy.
Yeah.
And Frodo, he asked Sam, it's like, are you sure you still want to go on this adventure, like we were saying? And Sam's like, yeah, I was talking to them. They were saying that you need help and that I'm going to play a big part. And Frodo was surprised by that Sam had actually been able to talk to them alone, and that Sam was able to hold a conversation with them because they just seemed so above, I guess.
Right. Well, and he also knew how much Sam was enthralled about them too. So
right,
kind of hero worship type of thing. Whereas, would he really be able to sit down and have an actual conversation?
Like the time I got to do a photo op with Sebastian Stan, and all I could do was like grin like an idiot while he complimented your kilt.
Yes. Yes. Maybe we should dig that picture out and share it.
We should, because I'm just grinning like this stupid idiot.
All right, let's get back to Sam. So Sam, at one point, Sam says, I know we're going on a very long road into darkness, and I also know I have something to do before the end of all of this.
Yeah.
So that's
and Frodo, he looks at Sam and is surprised almost about how wise he is in this moment, where he's not seeing the Sam he knows, who's your typical hobbit, carefree kind of person, but a little bit more wise and understanding of the greater dangers and adventure that's coming.
Right. Well, I mean, Tolkien let us know. I mean, after all, his name is Sam Wise.
That's true. Not subtle there.
Right, and so Tolkien gives us a hint at this. After all, his name is Sam Wise.
True. That's not subtle.
Yeah. So, but what's also interesting, and this is where we get our first glimpse of Sam's strength of character. We get a little bit of foretelling here. I have something important to do before this is all over.
And he's very keen on completing those tasks.
Right. And Sam is very keen on staying with Frodo. You can tell that Tolkien himself was, in World War One, because there's a little bit of that British officer, non-com assistant thing going on here.
Yeah, that's something we've talked about before.
Yeah, so Sam is showing that mix of love and contempt for Frodo.
Right.
Which is how they always portray that, assistant of a British officer with. They're very loyal, but sometimes he just doesn't get it.
Yeah. So they finish up breakfast and they're trying to decide which way they want to go, and Frodo wants to take a shortcut, and Pippin says something surprisingly wise, where he says, shortcuts make long delays. And I thought that was very interesting coming from him, but the way he kind of said it seems like, I guess that's more of a Hobbit saying. That sounds like something that is very common for hobbits to say.
Right.
Though his solution is going the main road so they can stop by a bar, and Frodo's like, okay, so bars make even longer delays, so we're not
Right.
doing
Yeah.
that.
Exactly. And and Sam is even like,
But
oh,
beer.
beer.
The best beer in East Farthington, is that what it's called?
Whatever.
Something
Yes,
like
the
that.
best beer in East Farthington. Yes.
Got it right. Cool.
So
So
Pippin
yeah.
just says, well, okay, if we're going to go tromping around the bog, let's go get it started now.
Right. And then he says something like first check, which kind of threw me off a little bit for what that meant. But he's like first check, and he kind of points over the woods, and we see the Black Rider. And he says it with kind of a grim smile where it's kind of almost told you so, I guess.
Yes, right, yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of a told you so. It's like, I told you the Black Rider would be back, because that's something that they were discussing earlier, wondering if they would see him. And they're like, okay, that's concerning. And they do mention that, or Sam mentions, like, hey, did you talk about the Black Rider? And Frodo's like, no. And that was a problem.
Okay.
The elves were not helpful.
Helpful at all.
I'm
What?
sorry, I'm slightly distracted because the cat's just like glaring at me with his like piercing green eyes. Anyway, um, so they're like, okay, let's go through the bog, and Pippin is shown to know the area. I thought that was really interesting that he's adventured along the countryside before, and I think that that really shows his Took side.
Right.
Because that's something we've talked about before, is they're all related to the Tooks, who have a more greater, they're all related to the Tooks, who have a greater sense of adventure than the average hobbit.
Correct. And after they get on the way, they come to discover that their water bottles have been filled with a clear liquid, which is kind of pale golden color.
The only
Smells like honey and flowers.
the only note I made of this is elven drink equals drugs. Because you wanted to talk about this, so I'll let you talk about this.
Yeah. So, yeah. So very soon after they've had some of this golden liquid, they are
Like
laughing.
Felix Felicitas from Harry Potter. Sorry. I had to make the Harry Potter reference once an episode.
Okay, like to point out, Harry Potter movies, no Oscars. Lord of the Rings movies, over 10. So just, okay. You're inferior, Harry Potter.
Anyway, continue.
So they're laughing and they're slapping each other on the back and snapping fingers at the rain and, kind of bad talking, the Black Rider. And,
Yeah, they're getting real confident real quick.
Eventually, Frodo, leans up against a tree and closes his eye. And Sam and Pippin are nearby and they begin to hum. And they all begin to sing softly.
Of course they do, because this is Tolkien.
Yes. Ho, 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 to the bottom I go, to heal my heart and drown my woe. Rain may fall and wind may blow, and many miles be still to go. But under a tall tree I will lie, and let the clouds go sailing by. So one of the things that struck me this time reading it, I don't know why it's never struck me before, that's very much like those lusty songs that Shakespeare puts throughout his work.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
So I think that's interesting.
Yeah, Shakespeare likes to do that. But yeah, Tolkien throws in songs all the time in his work. So that's something Shakespeare does a lot, is he'll throw in like the ballad.
Right. And what's really interesting, when I read this for the first time back in, I guess I was in 9th grade, I skipped over the songs.
Okay. Did your Stegosaurus not like them? You're old. Anyway.
Because they didn't add to the in my ninth grade mind, they did not add to the story.
See, that's really interesting because
I saw them more as, oh, I have to write 100 pages, so let me put a couple of songs in.
I mean, for my background reading The Hobbit, I really enjoyed the songs in The Hobbit. I thought that they added to the ambiance.
Yeah, and yeah, it does.
But no, I can see how, especially in the context of The Lord of the Rings, that I've had trouble reading before, where it's like, oh my god, another one. So it can be a little frustrating.
Right, or sometimes the same thing as with the histories.
Mm-hmm.
So that Tolkien puts in there. Okay, get on with the show. Where's the action?
Yeah.
Where's the next encounter with the Black Rider? And while we're thinking about they're going to find the Black Rider any moment.
Yeah, the Black Rider sure knows how to kill a mood, shrieking like a dead cat, or very un-Hobbit-like, as they say.
How does a dead cat shriek?
Expression.
One of your own making, apparently. Right. I would like to try to attempt that, but I'm not going to.
Do it. I'm sorry, I'm laughing because even though this is an audio format, you did not see the cat jump into the air and run away. So yeah, very un-Hobbit like, and it just kills the mood immediately.
Right. And so they start not necessarily taking as much care as they should going through these brambles and up and around the mud and stuff like that.
Right. And they're finding it very difficult with all of their bags and everything, but they're like, we need to get out of here. This is not good.
And suddenly they find themselves in Farmer Maggot's.
Yes. So they finally get out of the forest. And at first they're afraid because there was something comforting about the cover of the forest. But then they see this Shire-like area and a very Hobbit made area that's very familiar and very homey. And that does comfort them a little bit. And they see a very welcome and familiar sight, Mr. Maggot's farms with mushrooms.
Mushrooms.
And we get a backstory about the mushrooms.
Yeah, so Frodo has been in fear of Mr. Maggot
For years.
for 30 years. Because he got caught one time poaching mushrooms.
Right. And it's really heavily hinted that hobbits are obsessed with mushrooms.
And he's not just afraid of Farmer Maggot, but also his dogs.
Right. Because he released the hounds on him. I've been watching a lot of Simpsons.
So he so eventually they run into Farmer Maggot.
Right.
Who like, oh, Mr. Baggins, welcome, come in, have a meal.
Because we find out that Merry and Pippin are friendly with him.
Right.
Yeah,
yes.
we find out that they're old friends.
Right. And
but he's very concerned because he recently had an encounter with a stranger who's heavily implied to be a Black Rider.
Correct. And we get a little telling of that this Black Rider, asked where Baggins was, and Farmer Maggot basically gives him a verbal flip of the middle finger. Like,
right, and the stranger even at one point offers to bribe him, and Mr. Maggot's offended. He's so offended that someone would try to bribe him.
Right. Yep. Which I find that very interesting too, because it's very.
Well, that's something that they've shown before, that hobbits, while they're not immune to greed, they're not nearly quite as greedy as other races.
Right. Well, and this also goes into where we have a little bit of universal wisdom among the hobbits. He understands that if I let him pay me for information, I'm going to be beholden to him probably for the rest of my life.
Okay.
So
Interesting.
So eventually they get through that encounter. Talking with Mr. Maggot. Mr. Maggot invites them into the house for dinner, and they are served the universal food of the gods: bacon.
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 Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's loved by the hobbits. It can't be all that bad then, right, folks?
I mean, who doesn't love bacon? Let's be honest. So then they leave.
Yes, they leave. They leave, and even though Frodo kind of is trying to beg him off because it's too dangerous, Farmer Maggot wants to bring him down to the ferry anyway.
Yeah, and give him a ride. And they finally accept because they are exhausted. But Frodo has a lot of anxiety about it.
He's afraid for his friends, too.
Well, that and this cart's going so slow.
Yeah, the cart seems to be really slow, but really, if he thought about it, it's not going any faster than he would have walking in his state.
True.
So, I mean, he's just, full of anxieties and what ifs.
Right. And they're getting really close to the ferry when they start to hear hoofbeats. And it just keeps getting louder and faster and getting really grown up. And then it's Mary.
Wow. You ruined that. You ruined the whole suspense. Because he goes, Mr. Baggins!
That is true. He goes, Mr.
Baggins!
But it says in a muffled voice that sounds like Mary. And the immediate relief is just...
Yeah, but at first, they think it's the Black Rider.
Right, but then it's like... all of a sudden they see it's Mary and not the Black Rider. Yep. And it's just, the relief is palpable. It's incredible.
Yeah.
They let out a sigh of relief and they're like, there you are. And Mary's just like, where have you guys been?
Yeah, because they should have been there by now.
But they took
shortcuts. Shortcuts lead to long delays.
Yes, they do.
And so does a bacon-filled dinner. Bacon and shrooms. Does it get any better than that?
Well, speaking of shrooms, as they get on the ferry, Mr. Maggot has a present for Frodo.
And what might that present be?
A basket of mushrooms.
Mushrooms! But no bacon. That's because they ate it all.
They ate all the bacon, yeah. But I gave some mushrooms because hobbits just like mushrooms, apparently.
There's something about it.
I mean, mushrooms are delicious. I wish we could eat them.
Yeah, I love the way they taste. They just don't like me.
They don't like us. It does not agree with my stomach.
But I wonder if the love of shrooms, because they're something that comes from the earth and they're low and everything, because they walk around and they feel the dirt in between their toes all the time.
I guess that is very hobbitish. I never thought of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's really earthy.
That's true. And I guess that is like the aesthetic when it comes to hobbits.
Right, and then also when you think about what a mushroom is, mushroom is really a fungus eating eating dead stuff.
And turning it into soil.
Turning it into soil.
Into fertile soil.
Right. And so they take something that's so lowly and bring it up.
I mean, yeah, that's why I love cockroaches. I know, weird, but that's
the
same.
You eat cockroaches?
No! I don't like them as animals. No.
Okay. Okay. You had me scared there.
But no, that's the same principle as why I love cockroaches, because they eat decaying matter and then they poop pure soil. And puke it too. They do.
Pure soil.
Yeah, pure soil.
Well, when we die, we turn to pure dust.
Yeah.
Ashes to ashes, dust to dust.
With a lot of nitrogen that can really help with plants flourish.
Right, and that's why I don't dust around the house. It might be someone I know.
So that's what you tell mom.
All right, we got off rails here. But yes, so next chapter.
Well, before we do that, any thoughts on this chapter?
No, I think that's pretty much it.
Okay.
I
mean, it was interesting. And then something that I noticed was we are now 1/4 of the way through the book.
1/4 of the way through the book. And that's interesting because we just finished 4.
Yep.
We just finished 4 episodes. And there's only 10 chapters in the book.
Oh, these are going to get long.
These are going to get long chapters, girly girl.
Oh, no. Well, that means longer episodes. Well, that is something that I did have a couple people say they wanted more.
Excuse me.
That is something that a couple people have said is that they do wish it was a little bit longer. So I guess for now we can try to like stay with a chapter and episode. I don't think we're going to have to split them up at this point.
Or maybe we might split them up just for ease of listening to like 6.1 and 6.2, which I was just making fun of earlier off air.
Apparently, naming the episodes stuff like E 4.0 is weird. But it's in case I need to do any editing and redo stuff, like this episode.
I was talking more about like Marvel Comics as 1.1 because they forgot to put something in number 1 that has to take place before number 2.
Yeah, that's true.
So, Evelyn's got some more editing to do tonight.
Because we had to record part of this the night before because my editing software is being really awful.
Therefore, a word to the wise. Don't wait to the last second to do something when it's due tomorrow.
I literally was editing on last Tuesday Monday. I was editing Monday, a week before, when we realized I had basically half of the stuff missing. We re-recorded Wednesday. I was working on it Thursday and Friday. I couldn't work on it yesterday because I was working on a project for you. Worked on it tonight, and lo and behold, the last 10 minutes were missing. So we're re-recording these last 10 minutes at 8 p.m.
That's turned into 11 more minutes. Because you had to explain all that.
Well, whatever.
Ever what? Okay. So, now, next chapter.
All right.
Conspiracy Unmasked. What?
Jesus.
What is it going to be about? What is the conspiracy? And what's going to be unmasked?
I don't know, man.
Is Aragon going to show up?
No, I'm going to say Aragon's not going to show up.
Or is Aragon the Black Rider?
Oh, maybe. Is Aragorn the Black Rider that's trying to find them? But that wouldn't explain the shriek. Maybe he's disguised as a Black Rider. That's it. Aragon is disguised as a Black Rider. You just heard my thought process out loud.
Well, the shriek might have been when a giant spider fell in his face. He might be afraid of spiders.
He's not Mom.
I'm done. I'm done.
Okay.
I've been thinking for 12 hours. This is not good.
It's not. Okay, so the conspiracy unmasked is Aragorn. Is it Aragorn or Aragon? It's not. Aragon's the dragon book. Aragon's the dragon book, right? It's Aragorn. Don't just look at me. Tell me. I don't know words.
She speak pretty one day.
It's Aragorn, right?
Aragorn.
Okay. So my prediction is that Aragorn is going to be disguised as one of the Black Riders trying to get to them and find them. That's what I'm going to predict.
Well, but, I mean, if he's screeching like this, any human can do that.
Warning. No, maybe the screeching was they found out that he was disguising as them and they're rallying. That could be it.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, anything can happen at this point.
Yeah. All right, well, I think that's the episode. Thank you for putting up with us, especially with my dad rattling his notebook. All right.
The notebook is closed. The episode has ended.
My notebook is also now closed.
Time for the exit.
I have been Evelyn.
I've been Robert.
And this is Talking About It.
Good night or day or morning or whatever.
It'll be morning. I will have this out by 8 a.m.
I'm talking about when they listen to it.
Okay. Good night. Good morning. Goodbye.
Thank you so much for listening. I have been Robert.
And I have been Evelyn.
Podcasters are Robert and Evelyn Lewis.
Edited by Evelyn Lewis.
Produced by Robert Lewis, Evelyn Lewis, and the comic Canary.
Music provided by Ben Sound. Link in the description.
Support us on Patreon at Talking About It Podcast.
Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Talking About It.
And Twitter at TokenPod.
Thank you all again for listening, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.